Hey, I'm James. Welcome to Alternate Sides, a podcast about movies, parking, and a 25-year friendship. Now, we recorded a series intro episode. It's only about 10 minutes long that explains what we're trying to get up to here. I recommend you go listen to it, but just in case you haven't heard it, the basic idea is this. Despite my having worked in film and TV for 20 years, I haven't actually seen that many movies. And my dear friend and collaborator Sam has been giving me a hard time about it for years. So I finally decided, with age 50 fast approaching, to face my fears and watch some movies. One movie from each year of my life, starting in 1973. Now at the same time, Sam has to go through this absurd ritual every week in Brooklyn called alternate side parking, where he has to sit in his car for an hour, or else he'll get a ticket, supposedly because a street sweeper is going to come and clean up the street. This makes him a perfect captive audience for me, so we record the show while he's sitting in his car. Today we talk about the movie Don't Look Now. It's directed by Nicolas Roeg. It stars Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie. The other thing you should know is that we recorded this at the end of 2022. The World Cup had just ended, and Sam was still smarting. His beloved England squad had been knocked out of the tournament in a penalty shootout with France. This is the first episode of the podcast, and this is the first podcast we've ever done, so it's not likely going to be the most elegant thing you've heard all year, but I promise we get better as we go along. Sound good? All right, here we go. Whoa! Okay, so here we are. You're sitting like a lump again.
Yeah,
Like a lemon.
back in the car, like the plum jam.
Where are we today?
I'm on Prospect. Is it Place? Prospect Street? Prospect. Something Prospect.
So, Don't Look Now. I watched it. Did you watch it?
I did.
Good.
So tell me this. Was it scary?
It was not that scary, and that was something that I was surprised at. That I mean, it was unsettling, but I would not call it a horror movie necessarily. I would call it a psychological thriller. Because to me, what is a horror movie? To me, horror has to include gore of some kind. I mean, I hate to put it that way, but like,
Oh no, I don't know.
so what is a horror movie?
I think I think you're right, psychological horror, but it is a like a template for the modern horror movie, I think. One thing that it does is it which I like is when horror movies play in the ambiguous zone of, is this in my head?
Right.
Is there a rational explanation for this? We've always talked about the moment in The Shining where they cheat, right? Where they open the freezer door. When the ghosts open the freezer door, I don't like that because there's no rational way. We've crossed over and said that these people are actually physical entities, which always annoys me.
So Jack Nicholson, he's in the walk-in freezer. She locks him in the walk-in freezer, and he's trapped in there. And then
he's talking to whoever it is, on the other side.
Uh-huh.
Grady, is it, or whoever it is? He tells him to open the door, and he gets out. So that's a bit of a cheat in my book, because everything else could be a vision. And so what I love about this movie is that everything is sort of, the two women who she's one of them who sees.
Yes.
She has the gift of sight.
Second sight.
It's a curse, of course. And he has it too. Old Donald.
Well, that's what you don't realize, and I'm curious about. Frequently, I'm not a slow person. I don't think. I have to ask my kids about that, but it didn't occur to me until very near the end of the movie that what he had seen was the future. He saw a premonition of his own funeral. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
but
when the three of them are in the boat.
When the three of them go by on the boat, it's an incredible moment. And then I mean, I think what it does so well too is the feeling from the very start of just dread. The whole movie is just, you just feel like, and I think that's what you bring into a movie like that, is you just know terrible things are going to happen. And so when they're walking in Venice at night and it's very desolate, the interesting thing to me is this idea of grief and the fact that the Donald Sutherland character has not in some way he has not gotten over it, right? The child has died, and it's like his grief is incomplete in a way that undoes him. He keeps being haunted by this red-coated figure.
He seems like he's doing much better than she is now.
He seems that way. But he's the one who keeps seeing reminders of the daughter's death. Yeah, the red dress, the little baby doll in the canal that he fishes out. That's a very...
The thing is about him is that because he has the sight, he sees it all from the beginning. So the very opening scene with the daughter in the thing that triggers it, right, is the figure in red in the church.
Right.
That's the thing that's really amazing, is that it's also beautifully connected visually. Like he puts this figure in, and then they just keep. And I think that's not in the story, right? The story, the red coat belongs to his wife, I think, in the Du Maurier book, the story or whatever it is. But I think this idea, like, he attaches some significance to that, and therefore everything else. I don't know if it's that he hasn't grieved. It's that he knows more. So when Margie was very, very, very young, they actually lived in Ealing, very close to where my parents live now, weirdly. And they lived in this house which backed onto Hanger Hill Park, which is a park right very close to my parents' house.
West London.
West London, yeah. And they had friends over. And Margie and her sister were out in the park, I think, playing. And Margie's mom, Momo, was serving tea. She had guests in the house, and she was serving tea to the guests. And she was pouring the tea in the kitchen, and she picked up the tray, and she says, I was about to go into the room to give the tea. And she said, I just put the tray down, and I ran out the back of the back door to the park, just started running. Exactly like Donald Sutherland. Just puts it down and starts running, and runs and runs and runs, and sees that Katie and Margie had been playing, and the swing had come and struck Margie in her head, and she was unconscious. She'd been knocked out. And Margie's mom ran over and picked her up and rushed her back into the house, like got her back, revived her and got her back. She was like, it's, to this day, I have no idea how I knew, but she said, I just knew. And I just started running out there. I grabbed her and brought her back. It's really crazy.
And what do you think about that?
I don't know. I don't know what to think about it. I'm not someone who believes in, supernatural shit. But I do think that there are things, I don't know, there's things that we know somehow, or there's things out there that that we occasionally have access to, I guess.
There are more things in heaven and earth ratio.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a famous story in my family, too, about my parents driving up to Vermont in the Volvo station wagon. And my twin sister and I were in the back, 6 months old or whatever, in the car seats at night. And my mother suddenly demanded that we pull over and get us out of the car seats into the front. My father was like, why on earth would you do that? They're finally asleep. We've got 2 hours to go, whatever it is.
It's so annoying.
But she insisted in a way that only my mother can insist. And so they did it. And then, shortly thereafter, they were T-boned by a tractor trailer and involved in an accident. One of the car seats, this is the great detail, broke through the glass and went out, boom, ba-doom, ba-doom, on the highway.
That could have been you.
Could have been me. Could have been my sister.
Holy shit.
But of course, my response is like, well, if you hadn't pulled over to wake us up, you wouldn't have been there for the accident.
Wouldn't you?
I
think Mumsy knows.
I've been thinking more and more in recent years that of course there are things that are unaccountable forces at play and connections at work. But I also think, just to bring it back to the movie, that he's in Venice to restore this church, but the church is a fake. So the whole process of restoration is a fake restoration. And I think that is very telling about his grieving process. He's not truly over it, but he's going about it, and they keep trying to rattle him out of his, not really complacency, but out of this idea that He just keeps saying she's dead, flatly. But there's no emotion from him at all. To the very end, when the terrible woman pulls the cleaver out and he says, wait. He says, wait. He suddenly gets it. But it's too late at that moment. That's really the horror moment of the movie, the very ending. And then it's beautifully done, the montage of seeing all the different associations of the color red in the slide, the woman's coat, the child's coat, the reflection in the canals. You know, Molly and I went to Venice when we were first courting in the 90s, and
courting. That's funny.
We actually changed the flight. We were supposed to be in Venice for 3 days, and after 2 days, I was like, I got to get out of here. And we actually changed our flight reservation to leave because of something that's sort of alluded to in the movie, like the feeling of death around the I don't know, it was such a weird feeling. It was like you could sense the many, many generations of souls who had lived and died there were like still present in the city in a way that I never experienced in any other place. That was very oppressive, which seems ridiculous to me saying that now.
Right,
if somebody told me that now,
away from your mom, are you?
I don't know. If a 23-year-old told me that right now, I'd probably be like,
yeah, get over it, mate.
Yeah. Oh, it was hard being in Venice on vacation, was it?
Oh yeah, there were dead people with it. Did you see them?
But that is what it felt like. It was uncanny. I actually don't think in the movie they make enough of Venice. I mean, it could be Venice, it could be Vienna. The idea of the claustrophobia of it is what counts. But
it's well done. I think it's not like I like that they don't make a big song and dance about Venice. You're just kind of in the back streets.
You don't know where you are. In fact, there's one point where he says, well, that's another hint. They get lost on the way to dinner or something, and they come to this dead end where the rats are coming out of the water. And he says, I know this place.
Yeah, exactly. He's seen it all. But don't you think, the thing about this movie that's amazing to me is that it doesn't feel, of course it feels like it was made in the 70s, but it doesn't feel like pants as a result. It doesn't feel like, oh, that's a bit shit, you should have done that differently. It feels remarkably modern to me. Mostly, I guess, because of the editing, but it just is so well made. It's like really, really, really beautifully constructed. Like it's got a language. There is a language that we like. I often think that movies have done this over time. Like they've never really like doubled down on this idea of the language, and like people push it, you get somewhere, and then everyone goes, okay, but that was like an experiment. Let's go back. You know, like I think some of the way that he does these associations, Shane Carruth did this in his movies as well, like pulled stuff together that is like, oh wow, that's really, oh, there he goes, there's the street sweeper, cheers mate, thanks for cleaning the middle of the road.
He doesn't even pay any attention to you. He just cruises right down the street
at like 40 miles an hour. There's no cleaning happening.
This is absurd.
It really is. It's a charade. Well, no, but they, I think that it's a profit though, because all the cars who are here without being in the car will get charged $68. But I think, that opening scene, it's so well cut, like so well put together. Even that next scene in the restaurant where he closes the window, is it? And then the door blows open.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's fantastic. Like that is the tone. That's what you're talking about. Like that feeling of like there's something more to all this, you know, immediately. And then her collapsing at the table, it's like so over the top. And it's like it takes like 2 minutes.
If he did that today, 2 minutes to fall from the table there. But if that happened today, don't you think that people would laugh at that if you made that moment as operatic?
You would do it in a different way, but you would do it. You could make it like that. I guess that's interesting because there are things that you would do differently, and then there's things that you really wouldn't. Like I don't know what you do differently in the opening scene, and that's remarkable.
It's beautifully done. Yeah, the cutting back and forth and the slide.
The two kids, the reflection in the water, the little misty. I mean, it's very, very them in the room, and like no no, like, let's get into this. It's just fucking, where is she? Here we go.
Yeah. There's a lot also I noticed of shots of people's faces obscured, or like the back of people's heads, where you would normally in a movie, I think, just show them, or you'd show them in profile. Like in that opening scene, he looks over at her, she's reading, and she's got his back to him.
Mm-hmm.
And you just hold on the shot in a way that feels very unnatural. Of like, what is she thinking? What is her face like, waiting for her to turn, which of course happens at the end, the big reveal at the end. I was thinking of Shane Carruth too, and like the opening of Upstream Color, which is so interesting, where the little kids get the drink the laced Coca-Cola and then do all those choreographed mirroring moves.
Yeah, that's really good.
But I was conscious, since we'll talk, I'm just to address the sort of overarching theme of these discussions. It wasn't too bad in terms of being afraid to watch it. It's a deeply unsettling movie, but it was unsettling in an enriching way.
Well, I was going to say, don't you feel better for having seen this movie?
I am glad I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't understand, like, the further you go down the horror.
Well, that horror is its own. But your problem isn't horror. It's not like, oh, James has never watched.
Well, I definitely don't need the body stuff. I don't want to see someone getting beheaded on camera. I don't need to see with like a hacksaw or whatever. I don't want to see any of that. I don't want to see somebody...
No, but I don't think that's the most. That's easy to shut out. That doesn't linger usually. That's like a shock.
Well, if you had told me even as you did a few weeks ago, like, this is a movie about parents, who lose a child, and the grief and the horror of that, I would have said, why would you want to watch anything about that? Why would you willingly want to go into that emotional space? Yet I did. But yes, I'm afraid. I don't know what it is I'm afraid of. It's not really the unknown.
Well, it's the same thing you were saying, like watching the penalty shootouts in the World Cup, which is so.
I turn it off. I cannot.
No,
I cannot.
You do.
Yeah, I updated on my phone, and I think it was like, was it Morocco, Argentina? I forgot the match, and I was like, oh wow, they've gone to penalties. And then in the split second, I thought, shall I turn it on? Nope. I'm not. I can't. And I haven't even been watching the match. I just can't. I can't. The tension of it is, you probably think, is exquisite, but I think it's just, it's intolerable.
When you care, I mean, look, if you don't really care, then it's kind of just fun to watch the penalty shootout.
Yeah.
When you care, it's harrowing.
Yes.
But
I care about so much.
But that's your problem, maybe. England's loss to France was very tough to get over.
It's very rare that I catch you in that mood that you were that afternoon when I called you.
I was so upset. I felt so bad for poor Harry Kane. So he's got a penalty in the, I don't know, whatever minute, 50 something minute, against his teammate at Spurs, his goalkeeper at Spurs. And he puts it away, 1-1. France come back, score another one. We get another penalty in the 84th minute, something like that. And he just skies it. He misses the whole fucking goal. And in that moment, first of all, you knew it was over. And you knew this man was now broken.
Is he broken? Come on, he's got to be able to. I mean, I'm not saying he's not going to be haunted by it, but
that will, as you know, that will now go down with the Chris Waddle and the Gareth Southgate. It's going to be in the lore forever, and whatever Harry does, unless Harry comes back and wins it into, which we don't do. But the other thing that I realize is that what they lack, because they really did, it was managed well, it was played well, they had the better chances. What they lack as a team is the belief of victory.
I watched the Brazil penalties, and the Brazilian player who kicked, and it bounced off the post and came out, and it was amazing to watch in the replay in slow motion, the realization of it in the eyes, and he just sinks to the ground. It's really like a Shakespearean kind of moment. And but as you say, like, the knowledge of that. And I mean, if I could try and connect it to the movie in a way, the the way that we're haunted by these things. You know, like, I'm sure if it were me, it would be days, weeks, months of like many times a day, the reminder coming and the flush of it, feeling of shame and of remorse and of
I
guilt
kept
and of,
seeing that penalty go over the fucking bar over and over again. I can't imagine what Harry Kane was seeing.
yeah.
Like, I was just someone thousands of miles away going, oh, it'd be nice if they won.
But you get better. You get better. This is the grief. This is the grief thing. Like, what we have to, biologically speaking. Otherwise, we never would have survived as a species. But I mean, there are still, like, in my own life, you know, my father died 28 years ago, which is insane to think about. But
Right.
and even still now, every once in a while, not often, once or twice a year, I'll be brought to tears by just the sadness of it, or the I don't know, the tragedy of it, the terrible, like, it was so, his death in particular, which was so untimely, and I guess
Yeah. But it's the law. It's the lack, right?
yeah, you tell me. I mean, it's the loss. In the movie, the one of the sisters says, like, who lost her own child, you learn. And she says, that was hard to get over, but I had two more. And then she says, you could also.
You could, right.
As though it's like, I mean, I wouldn't even talk about my pets like that. To say nothing of my children.
But do you think that's a little bit, I think that's maybe a product of 50 years. That's where 50 years has changed things. I think we're much more sensitive today about stuff like that. Certainly in my grandparents' time, that was the numbers game that you played with kids. You mostly had, like, I think Margie's grandma had 14 children, of which
What?
5 survived.
That's just insane.
Yeah.
We're very insulated these days. And of course, in those days, people died in their homes, you know, and people,
Yeah.
it was very real. Nowadays it's very sanitized, and
right. It was real, and it was ordinary. Therefore,
yes.
it was like, it was a thing that just happened. It really isn't anymore.
No, I think it's maybe to our detriment. I don't know actually if it's to our detriment, but the idea of, like, it does seem like a terrible injustice, like a cosmic.
Yeah, in Iran, like Margie said, before they left Iran, a number of people came to their house to die, because her mom was the nurse, so she would look after them. So they would come in the room and be there, and they'd be dying slowly, and everyone would look after them, and then one day they'd be gone in the house. And as you say, that's not how it goes really anymore.
I don't like it.
No, I don't like it either.
I don't like it at all. I think about this more and more. I think as I approach 50, of like, it's only a matter of time before the phone rings again, or before the terrible news comes about somebody I love. And the second thought that follows almost immediately is, what makes you think it's not going to be you that the phone calls about?
Right.
You know, we have a way of distancing ourselves from it, and that's why I think I'd rather sometimes just kill myself. Don't play this for my wife.
Oh God, no. Don't say this.
I sometimes think if I had a loaded gun in the house, I would have killed myself a long time ago. But out of like almost a momentary, like, realization of the futility of it all. Just like, oh, what is the point of this? Like,
this is a very good argument against having loaded guns in houses.
This is why I don't like to watch the movies. This is why I'm anxious about the Christmas party coming up. There's something about, but I don't consider myself an anxious person or a high-strung
you don't
person.
You don't?
I don't.
I think you.
In fact, Molly was annoyed recently because somebody referred to me as being so laid back. Like, I'm laid back. Why do they think you're laid back? I'm laid.
They don't know you very well.
I don't know. I don't like it at all. I don't like it at
all. This weekend was my dad's 75th birthday, and they're here till they leave today, actually. But they we had my aunt and uncle over and a few other people on Saturday night. And like at one point, I was like, all you guys have talked about for the last half hour is everyone who's died or dying or dropping dead. And they were like, yeah, this is what happens when you get to 75. All your friends are just like falling away. Like it must be, I don't know. I feel like every bit of aging is impossible to comprehend until you're there. Like nothing that I could say to Wilder would explain what lies in store. Even if you mentally try to even if you really give it a go, you can't get there.
No, that's true. But do you think that, that tends to make me feel a little bit more soft, gentle about the folly of my teens and 20s and 30s and 40s. I was in an Uber the other day that was a Tesla, which is a weird, like, imagine saying to somebody 20 years ago, my Uber was a Tesla. They would think that you were just speaking gibberish.
That's not English.
But it was this guy in his mid-20s probably. And he was extremely forward with his questions. Like,
you sound like fucking Charles Dickens. My job, my cabbie. It was very full.
Well, no, it was the effrontery. I don't know. There was a certain presumption. He asked me, like, before we barely gotten half a mile, he was like, "Is that your house?" Yeah. And then he said, "Really nice. What's this neighborhood called?" And I told him. And then he said, "And what do you do?" And I said, "I'm a therapist." But then he said, "You must have done very well for yourself as a therapist if that's your house, or if you live in this neighborhood." Which I just thought was like, what is the thinking behind that question? Anyway, then it emerged that he has the startup that he's doing, which which is a combination of like fitness classes and yoga and meditation. But anyway, the point of the whole story is like he had the completely oblivious, unquestioning self-assurance that only a white man in his mid-20s can have. You know what I mean? And so I couldn't get too like offended by what he was asking or by his attitude or whatever, just because I thought, like, he was telling me that he'd been all over, man. He'd spent 2 years. He was in Australia. He was in Thailand, New Zealand. Character. Then he asked me if I was in therapy, and then he offered to connect me with his therapist. I mean, it was so strange.
This is a great ride.
Oh my gosh. So, but then I thought, you know what? This kid that's where he is right now, you know? And just like, I see it in my kids too, now that Livy's 18. The things that she says, the way that she thinks, like her. And it's proper for her to be ignoring of us and of reason in a certain sense, and having to cleave herself off from the family unit in a certain way. But
yeah, that's true.
But I think this is, just to go back to Harry Kane and also to the movie, I guess the cliche of time healing all wounds. You know, there is some kind of biological mandate for getting over these things.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Isn't there a time beyond which it starts to become a little unseemly or a little like embarrassing or even annoying if somebody is grieving too long? Because you start to think, like, you know, if I died and Molly wore black for a month, people might think, okay, that's sort of a weird Victorian choice that she's making. But if she wore it black for a year, or if she wore it forever after that, because she was in
which
mourning,
is what you'd like, which is
what I expect. After a while, it would seem like an affect or like a pretension to people.
Right, but that's to do with the social mores, right? That's to do with whatever society says. Like in Iran, you are supposed to wear black definitely for 40 days. Mm-hmm. And some people do for a year, very commonly. That wouldn't be weird. Everyone would be going. Everyone would, if you didn't for a year, they'd be like, well, they were probably not that close. Oh. You know, well, I guess that marriage wasn't as good as we thought it was. Yeah, I think so. So it's all codes, right?
Or remarrying, the funeral baked meats did coldly furnish forth the wedding table. Right?
Exactly.
All right. For the next time we talk, next time you're parking the car, here's some movies from 1974 I have not seen.
Okay.
Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore.
Oh, the Marty Scorsese. Very good movie. I love that movie.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I've never seen the Texas Chainsaw. And that's like the kind of movie I'm not really that bothered to see.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about, like the thing that you don't like, the gore and the...
I think so, although I think that movie is now, because it's so... I mean, the thing also would be a conversation for another time, I guess, is the overlap of horror and comedy and how that gets played with,
Yeah. I mean, I've seen bits of that movie. It's just not a movie that I'm interested in watching, but yeah.
Is it supposed to be funny? This is...
Yeah.
This is what I wondered about, like even in RoboCop, like, are we supposed to be laughing at the score?
Definitely.
Definitely are.
Dun, 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 dun,
Like, what about like in Get Out? There's a more recent one, Get Out. Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Death Wish. Charles Bronson.
Oh, Death Wish. Interesting.
My father liked that movie.
Maybe
troubling. The Last Detail.
Maybe I haven't seen that movie. What? Who made that? Is that Hal Ashby?
Yeah. Hal Ashby. Screenplay by Robert Towne.
We should watch that. That'll be... Is that the one where they're the sailors?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I have seen that. It's very good. Okay, that's a front runner.
That's one. Amarcord.
Wonderful movie. So good.
The gasp of the truly pretentious film snob. Fellini. Oh, my goodness.
That movie... So I turned on the TV once on the Upper West Side, like 20 years ago, and a movie was on, and I like within 2 minutes I was just like, "What is this? Like, this is amazing. This is obviously brilliant. Like, just right away." And it was Amarcord, and I only figured out later what the hell it was, and I went and watched it again. It's like he fucking knew what he was doing. All right, that's a good one.
So, and then the last one is Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, which I've heard of.
It's terrible.
That's Cimino.
Yeah, it's not good.
Was Cimino any good?
Cimino was great, but that's a movie.
The Deer Hunter. Well, I don't know if The Deer Hunter is that good a movie.
Yes, it is. Yeah, 100% great fucking movie. I've broken no argument on The Deer Hunter. It's a very good movie. No, Thunderbolt and Lightfoot is fine. It's just it's a movie that I think has probably not aged very well.
All right, so The Last Detail maybe is the one.
Maybe The Last Detail, if you don't want to go to Fellini. Amarcord is the best movie on that list. The Last Detail. There's nothing scary about that, though.
Well, it's just good for me. It's good for me to watch a movie that I haven't seen.
Oh, I'm getting a call. Hang on. Let me, we should probably end this. This is my work.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
All right. Sounds good.
Bye. Okay. 1 down, 49 to go. Like I said, we get better at this as we go along. Next up is Hal Ashby's 1974 movie, The Last Detail, starring Jack Nicholson, Otis Young, Randy Quaid. Check it out if you have a chance. See you next week.